Hello, this is a review of a project that I did in 2012 in the summer. And what I did was I put in a radiant barrier in the rafters and also insulation in the roof, and ended up saving all kinds of money over having someone else do it. And I'd like to kind of give you a review of the things that I did, and some tips on self-help projects if you want to tackle this type of job yourself. When I first got interested in this project, when a salesman came by the house and was wanting to put in the radiant barrier, and he made all kinds of claims, for energy savings and 1 or 2 year payback for the work and everything. So I told him I'd get back with him after I did some research, and what he was wanting to do was to put in radiant barrier directly over top of the old blow-in insulation, right to the existing floor joist, and no other insulation. So anyway, after I did some research, I found out that that's really not a very efficient way of performing this radiant barrier. It's much more efficient if you put the radiant barrier in the rafters and capture the heat as it comes off the roof and vent it out the roof vents, instead of trying to capture it at the floor and then your whole attic is hot. And so anyway, that's what I decided to do, and I decided to do it myself. And I ended up going with Armafoil as my supplier for the radiant barrier, and chose them for several reasons. One, it was a lighter weight material and very tear resistant, easier to work with, and wasn't a laminated material like a lot of the others are that are much thicker, and they laminate multiple films, aluminum film, to polyurethane fabric, and makes for a much heavier product and also harder to work with. And also that laminate, after a number of years, will become brittle, and the long-term use of it is in question as well. And so anyway, I'd like to show you what all the tools and stuff is required to do the job, and show you some of the tips and stuff that I was able to do when I performed this job. And first off, we have really only just very, very few items needed to do this job. The foil itself, which is a very forgiving foil. You can crinkle it up and it forms right back to its original form. Very tear resistant. You couldn't tear this material if you tried to. Of course, you have to have a mask for insulation, and some coveralls, and staple gun, scissors, and utility knife, and a little bit of some tape to tape up the seams, and that's really about it. So it took me about 2 weekends to do this job. It was a tremendous learning curve. I could probably do this job again half the time. So but anyway, the only hard part on this job is selecting how you're going to do it. I did this by myself with no extra help, and one of the reasons I like the Armafoil is that it has a 51-inch width on it, and most of your rafters are 24 inches, and so you can go too wide, it'll be 48, and most of the other products come in 48-inch width, and that leaves you no leeway for any error when you're stapling it to the rafters. And a 51-inch, allows you, to be not exactly right in the middle of the rafter when you start installing it. It makes it much easier when you're installing it, when you have that 3-inch overlap. So the only really hard part is going around the A-frames, as you can see right here, and you have to do a few little cuts on that when you go in there. What I did was I took if you see up the top, here's the span right here. There's one end of it, and the other end of it is the second one over there, second rafter. In the middle, what I did is I cut at 25.5 inches. I cut a line all the way down to the bottom of this joist right here of this A-frame, and I stapled that all, from the top down. I worked from the top down. I stapled it in the middle and then on the sides, Then I made a few cuts and sealed it up around the A-frame. Then once I got past the A-frame, then it's just a straight run all the way to the bottom. So it's it's not that difficult once you get the hang of it. The first couple times you do it, it's there's definitely a learning curve. But I did it from top to bottom. You can also do this side to side, and I think that the top to bottom is a much easier way to do it because you have less waste. And so I can cut one piece from the top all the way to the bottom and have no waste at all. Whereas if you go side to side, you're going to have some waste because it's not always going to come out, the width of the fabric itself. So you're going to have some waste there. So that's the way I chose to do it. And once I got, you can kind of see a view of all the joints that I put in there. And once you get the hang of it, it's just a matter of tacking it up. There you can see the roof joist up there. You want to leave it about 6 to 8 inches from your roof line, because you have a vent there, and it vents all out. Vents out the top of the roof vent. And on the edges, I have soffit vents in there. And what I did is to make sure I have airflow, as you can see. The soffit vent over there, I use a little air chamber that you can buy that that ventilates from the soffit up to the roof. It is available in most of the home stores. I just kind of stuck that on the inside of the foil itself, so I'll have airflow from the soffit vent into the airspace here, and the air will also go on the back side as well. So your hot air is going to go on your back side and flow up the channel to your roof vent, and then your outside air is going to from the soffit, it will also come in to the inside of the roof, inside of your attic space, and provide cooling to the inside. And what I've found is that it's so cool in here that in the middle of summer I was getting only 2-degree rise from the outside ambient temperature to the inside of the roof, inside of the airspace in here. So when it would be 95 degrees outside, it would be 97 degrees up here in the attic. And after I put in the insulation, had really good results, from a heating air conditioning heating system. And as an example, my heating bill went from, before I put it in, it was about $250 for the month, and as soon as I put it in, I saw an immediate $100 drop. And so it's well worth the money, but I would strongly recommend not using the foil on top of your floor joist, because your vapor barrier is not really doing a whole lot for you in the heating in the winter time if you got it on top of the floor joist, because it has to have an air space to radiate the heat back to the space. So it's a much more efficient system if you install the radiant barrier in your rafters, and then install insulation on top of your old bad insulation. And right now I've got I had about R19 in there from the existing insulation, and I put in an R30 on top of it, so I got close to about R48 or so total insulation, plus the vapor barrier, plus the radiant barrier in the rafters. So wintertime, I've been seeing also a drastic reduction in my heating bill, mostly because of the insulation. And so anyway, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.